run 15 minutes, haven't I? So we have Paul saying the foolishness of preaching. Aren't you there sent to preach, to teach? No. No, I'm just saying that this is the truth of the matter. And when Jesus teaches, if you will hear it, the development of the Pauline story, Apollonius probably, and demonstrating the foolishness of teaching. You thought the Sermon on the Mount was presumably some wonderful power that can transform us by simply listening to it, studying it, reasoning with it, analysing with it, and being transformed by it. Well, it'll certainly do something to you, but it won't find you what you have. My words, they are spirit and they are life, says Jesus. Because they're not his words. He says they're the words of God. Now they're the words of his God, so to speak, in the story. They are not necessarily the words of your God, so you don't have ears to hear. But when I say something and you think, I agree with that, because you have ears to hear on that point. It's not that I'm teaching you. You're just seeing a reflection of what you count as you already. In other words, I reveal by my presence, and you do yours, that in others that they have already. They respond accordingly. If they don't have it in them, they respond neutrally or hostilely, depending on how it is to them. How inconsistent and in what way it's inconsistent with who they are. So the transformation is something that's from within and from one's own perspective. And Jesus is the demonstration of that. Paul is too. Any, quotes, teacher is that, recognized as someone to whom many people find an affinity. Whereas we thought, in some sense, he's given them the affinity. No. But he did give you the experience of knowing someone, in the case of Jesus, who sees God as his heavenly, loving, all-powerful dad. And in a sense, you can see someone, experience someone who, if you like, thinks like that. And it either attracts you or it doesn't, depending on who you are, if you have ears to hear or not. And if you haven't, well, from most religions' point of view, you're not in heaven. And you're going to stay in earth until, well, you'll stay here unless you become more like heaven. Do you see? It's the epitome of the story. The story doesn't have its value because it says something in history. Me knowing about Napoleon or William the Conqueror or something, or Pythagoras. It doesn't do anything for me unless something in me says, now that I value. Meaning, I already value it. Oh yes, I agree with that. Or I don't value it. Oh no, that looks very dodgy. Haven't we come a long way since then, you know? From my point of view. So mum or dad's loving kindness is far more significant in who we become than any amount of teaching. And in fact, the typical experience of schools was anything but lovely. It's a nightmare to the kids. And if you found school rather good and enjoyable, it's because that's who you were. And, well, unless something wonderful has happened, probably who you still are. I mean, for goodness sake, I've spent my life teaching and lecturing. That's no great achievement. It shows I hadn't gotten on to the reality of why we're in this world. I've attended to being perfect? No. The very epitome of childhood. One trying to find answers who doesn't know. That's what Plato is. And most of us have been extremely able to identify with that. He speaks a chord, I say most of us, some of us, speaks a chord, an accord with us in this dilemma of lack of assurance, of uncertainty, reflected in Descartes. Kingdom of heaven, we're saying, is conceivably quite different to that. And I'm saying we're saying, I'm not saying I'm teaching. You can't teach. It's a misconception. You can only experience. I can teach, so to speak, 1,800 people lecturing on a first-year course in economics. One of them might become an economist. It's the luck of the draw. I mean, it's trying to beat the system by just sheer numbers, you might think. Actually, no, it has a quite different purpose. From the point of view of the students, at least, that they, and probably the establishment, well, the establishment just wants to survive, but the students want to be associated with something that's of value in the employment market. So they have passed something in economics on their resume. Oh, that could be helpful, says the potential employer. You hope. It's not really true, though. The employer's looking for someone who is going to fit, has the same sort of mentality, and either that they are or that they want under them. You know, it's like this manager well, he's something in the hierarchy anyway, at Rothschild's, who says to me, "Are you ambitious?" And I look at him straight in the eye and say, "Yes, sir." And because you know that's what he wants. He wants someone who can be bored and stays bored. Because we have lots of buying power here. And that's where our strength and power is. And if you understand the system from that point of view, we can get on famously. But he doesn't love you, nor you him. You've just declared that we're in the same game. It's similar with Jesus. You're either with us or against us. If he's casting out in my name, looks like he's with us. Don't dismiss him. Crush what he's doing. This is what we value. The point here, though, it's the story of Jesus that transforms our heart. Whether it was the story of a good man being mistreated, which is the power of the crucifixion, or whether it's the example of the transforming wonderfulness in resurrection from all difficulties, whether it's the baby born in poverty and anonymity, but recognized by power, spiritual mystic power, the Magi from the East, probably Zoroastrian. The great teacher that's far more than a teacher. It's the more that's drawing us. Who he is. Wow. Look, a story's wonderful. We identify with the hero. He's the hero in the story. To identify with Christ, the Holy Spirit, the one sent from God. The only problem is, what sort of God are you talking about? And of course, religion, like in the case of Christianity, cottons on to an incredibly inferior view of God. This autocratic tyrant who's going to judge everyone at the end of the world, leave some of them in eternal damnation or complete annihilation, and has an appalling failure rate. You know, in the Hindu religion, one of them, 1,000 Sikhs, and 1 in 1,000 of those finds. God dear, this is not efficient, is it? He may be all powerful, but it seems to have an appalling view of efficiency. We're here to criticize the view of God. And by it, we start to realize what our God is. We hear our own criticism and build on it. And our experience of living what we believe and trust and value leads us to modify such. The feedback, the consequence. Ooh, don't think that's a good idea. That's not what I value. I think ... and live accordingly. If I can. And if I can't, I want it all the more and must find out. Look, this is no new revelation, is it? I'm not teaching anything here. I'm just saying what you can hear, which is that living is a revelation, is the training, is what we're becoming, affected by everything that we experience en route. And our ideal, perhaps, is that there is a God, all-powerful and all-loving, who's running the school. Not that the staff are in the staff room chatting and having tea and biscuits, and there's no one in the yard looking after the kids. "Where's Mr. Ross?" my first headmistress would say. And they would get the reply, "Oh, he's probably out in the yard." And he was, of course. I think there's something of Rudolf Steiner in me there, isn't there? Great desire to be understanding the kids and protecting them. My girl, 11-year-old, she's at a Rudolf Steiner school. I don't mean it's perfect, of course, but it's rather sweet in many ways. And the kids are smashing. Well, all kids are smashing, aren't they? Smashing, I don't mean, if you got the wrong interpretation of that word, they're breaking everything up and smashing it. I mean, they're just lovely. That's what kids are. From our point of view, thank God, or our selfish nature might not be very loving to them otherwise. We don't see them as a threat to us. And we empathise with them, of course. We know the dilemmas and the need they have for a lovely future. Love you, Dad. Love you for being in us and caring for us, because we want to care. You're a lovely person.